Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Frustrations over hot classrooms reach a boiling point.
Was feeling very faint and dizzy. I had to pick her up early on Friday because it was just too much.
Students say conditions at school are too hot to handle. Parents in Vancouver now joining the push for permanent solutions. Plus, 2 years later, what's changed at Crab Park?
It's been 2 years. We should have housing by now.
We check in with residents of Canada's first ever legal encampment ever since a BC Supreme Court ruling rejected attempts to evict them. And here we go again, more flood warnings.
Those risks are very much there in terms of landslides, road washouts.
Parts of the Peace region and BC's interior are bracing for heavy rains. What residents should be doing to prepare this time around.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Anita is off tonight. I'm Tanya Fletcher. Today marks 2 years since the Crab Park tent city was created in Vancouver. Residents have cemented their place in the community ever since a BC Supreme Court ruling that rejected an eviction attempt by the Vancouver Park Board. But as our Ali Patargay reports, the victory has come with some setbacks too.
Every morning I get to wake up to this view.
Jason Hebert's tent in Crab Park faces a picturesque scene of the port in Vancouver. This is the place he's called home for 2 years since the park was established 2 years ago today, after the city ordered residents of Strathcona Park to leave and they settled here. And it's a home Hebert has fought to stay in.
Powers to be seem to think that they can take my possessions and just throw them out in the dump. I got fed up with that. So I and other people went forward to the judges and asked them to make a ruling for us, and they did.
A BC Supreme Court decision in 2022 ruled the Vancouver Park Board's eviction orders the previous year were unjustified. And while residents feel more secure in staying, advocates say the city needs to do more to sustain the encampment while alternative housing options are not available.
People do have the right to shelter outside when there isn't enough shelter, and that shelter needs to be not only available but also adequate and suitable for each person's needs.
For the past 2 years, the park was provided with utilities like running water and a 911 emergency phone. Hebert says other needs are hard to come by.
They promised us electricity, for example, but instead of giving us electricity, they take it away. They lock it up in a green box.
The City of Vancouver was not available for comment, but for residents, today warrants a cause for celebration.
Well, it's pretty good to be able to last this long. It's like one of the most successful places for like all the homeless. Like, gives us hope to show all the people that are here to help.
I don't know what the future holds, but what I do know is we got to stick together, and I'm hoping that the community can realize that we're just people too.
For Hebert, he says the community is in for more obstacles, but he says he finds relief in small victories. Ali Patarga, CBC News, Vancouver.
If you took a BC ferry this long weekend, chances are you are up against major delays or even cancellations. And just today, it got even worse. Their system was hit with an outage early this morning, and it lasted most of the day. It halted the BC Ferry's website, the app, their phone system, all preventing passengers from booking sailings or changing reservations. BC Ferries has not returned a CBC News request for comment on the outage. The glitch was eventually fixed late this afternoon. And yesterday is Victoria Day, meaning many British Columbians had the day off to relax or check out some of the celebrations happening around BC. In the Lower Mainland, the Burnaby Village Museum was a hot spot. It reopened for the season earlier this month. And Canada's largest Victoria Day parade returned to the provincial capital, featuring international acts performing for the very first time since the pandemic. It marks the unofficial kickoff to Victoria's tourism season. Well, to weather-related news now, in parts of BC's northeast and interior regions are bracing for a heavy round of rain.
There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of just where exactly the rain falls in the ground. So that's what we're monitoring closely at this point in time. But we're just identifying that those risks are very much there in terms of landslides, road washouts.
Environment Canada has issued rainfall warnings for Fort Nelson and the Peace River region. Locals are warned the downpours could cause flash flooding and dangerous driving conditions. The risk of washouts near rivers and creeks is especially high in the backcountry, so you're being urged to be extra careful around waterways. And for more on what's expected right around the province, we join meteorologist Colette Kennedy with the latest forecast. Colette.
Yes, well, here it is, what we've been waiting for in terms of a principal change in the weather pattern. We need a soaking rain that goes on for more than a few hours, and not just the convective stuff that sets off more thunderstorms with the lightning strikes. But of course, this all exacerbates the flooding problem. Looking at this system, it's that upper trough becoming an area of low pressure that kind of hangs in there for a few days, and it does bring those heavier rains. And this really goes through tonight into tomorrow, and then Wednesday will be winding down and beginning to dry up again in terms of what's falling from the skies. But looking at the areas where we do have the rainfall warning, 50 to 75 millimeters, but where you could see in the southern Peace River region, 100 millimeters, that's possible. Around the Tumbler Ridge area, think in those areas, and then a little bit further south through the interior, that special weather statement in place for 20 to 40 millimeters of rain includes the Columbia region through here. So this is what we have for the next few days. Also seeing this cooling trend, which helps in some regard too. Now, for the metro area overnight tonight, we're looking at 12 degrees and partly cloudy conditions. And then for tomorrow, there it is, back to work and school, 15 degrees, and yes, still some showers in the forecast. We'll take a look at the wide-ranging forecast coming up and also the air quality statements in just a little bit.
All right, thanks so much, Colette. Well, every year, British Columbians brace for a wildfire season that could be even worse than the last. And climate-related disasters are happening with alarming frequency all over the world. In a new report today, the UN Weather Agency says the cost of these disasters is climbing. But as the CBC's Susanna De Silva explains, there was some good news in there, too.
The scramble is on to feed survivors of one of the most powerful cyclones to hit Bangladesh and Myanmar.
We hope to reach at least 800,000 people who are considered in greatest need.
Despite the devastation, as of now, the death toll is around 150, thousands less than previous storms, with the credit being given to early warning systems that saw hundreds of thousands get to safety in time. A new United Nations report says despite increasing climate disasters, fewer lives are being lost, though the financial costs are skyrocketing. The report cites close to 12,000 climate disasters over the last 5 decades that have taken the lives of over 2 million people at a cost of $5.8 trillion Canadian. Billions of those dollars have been spent on disasters here in Canada. Like the fire that leveled much of the village of Lytton, BC. Almost 2 years later, and millions will still be needed as most of the rebuilding hasn't even started.
The village is actually looking at a number of things to get us moving forward faster. So we're on a little bit of a pause right now, and we're reassessing.
Our economic analysis projects that on a household basis, climate change is already costing the average household over $1,000 a year.
Money spent by those directly affected or through tax dollars. Projections from the Canadian Climate Institute say Canada will spend billions of dollars more every year to repair damage from disasters if more isn't done to prepare and to prevent them.
So we can eliminate 75% of the economic risk of climate change by supporting global greenhouse gas reduction and by investing proactively in building resilience.
Investment scientists say need to happen quickly. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Up next, a wealth of information with just one click. How children are learning to make choices about what they should trust through Minecraft. Stay with us. And thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. Well, after a decade and a half of blood, sweat, tears, and thin rosters, women's football in Calgary is seeing a bit of a renaissance. This year, the Calgary Rage has 43 players. That's up 24 from last season. And the team says the uptick in numbers has resulted in players who are better coached and better prepared.
Guys, want to win this game? Yes! Are you sure you want to win this game? Yes!
After my first camp, I was hooked.
I love tackling, and I just love the environment and being a part of the team.
Oh my goodness, our team has grown this year, and it's amazing to see so many women playing football and have found this sport.
It's changed a lot. Hi, my name is Twyla Mazurko. I am the GM and Chief Organizational Officer for the Calgary Rage. Calgary Rage is the over 18 women's football team. We have players from the ages of 16 to 60. Women's tackle and flag football are two of the fastest growing sports. Women are growing up playing football now, so they are playing all the way through. So it's really changing the level of the game because we have people on our sidelines and people on the field that have been part of football their whole lives.
Last year, a sort of a U18 league started in Calgary, and now we're getting girls that not only have played in their high school on the guys teams, but now they've played in that football. So when we're getting them, they're better coached, they're better prepared for the game, and it's just getting more interest as a sport in general. I think the standard of the game is raised drastically. Last year, the most we ever dressed for a game was 21 players, and this year we have 40 players on our roster. So it's huge for our team because we can run proper drills.
Good, nice breath.
More people, more competition, better athletes. It's just going to keep going up from here. I think it also says, you know, how much time and effort they're putting into younger girls football right now with the Wildcats and all the other teams that they're building. And it's good to see that now we have a bit of a feeder system into this instead of girls just picking it up randomly. Now they can start a little younger and feel more comfortable.
I started in Bantam, and I just completely fell in love with it. It was a lot more slow paced. The guys were bigger, but like it wasn't as hard. In Rage, everybody is like tougher, I guess, and the intensity is a lot more. It's way better though.
People are coming to us now.
All right, good job, T.
This will be my 14th season playing with the Calgary Rage. When I go somewhere now, people are like, oh, you're with the Rage, and people know about the Rage. That makes me so happy. Where before it was like, there's a women's team. Is it all women? Is it contact, right? So not having to explain myself or explain what our sport is, it means the world to me that people know who we are.
Well, welcome back. As kids venture online at younger and younger ages, teaching them about media literacy becomes more and more important. CBC Kids News released a Minecraft map that lets students explore a world to investigate a rumor. Our Joel Ballard visited a Coquitlam classroom to see how exactly it's being used.
At this Coquitlam Middle School, students are learning how to separate fact from fiction.
What's the difference between misinformation and disinformation?
It's all part of the curriculum on digital literacy.
All of your information now is coming from social media feeds, unverified sources. Like misinformation spreads like wildfire, right? And it's the new way that we need to prepare our kids for the future.
But this isn't your typical lesson plan. No pen and paper, no worksheet. Instead, students get to play on a new Minecraft map, developed by CBC Kids News. So here's how the game works.
You're being like a reporter, and like there's a rumor that like summer vacation is canceled, and you're like just trying to like find out like who like started the rumor.
And this one person spread it to everybody. Now everybody thinks the news is real.
We need to ask citizens questions on what they heard or what they said.
Walk around, you like find evidences and write it down in our little books to make a story for the news.
Teaching students to think with a critical eye, confirm the information is true before sharing it.
Not only is that going to help them like deal with the news and deal with kind of social interactions, it's going to help them academically as well, like being able to back up their positions with sources and evidence and findings.
The free program is called Reporting 101, Misinformation. and was released by CBC Kids News to further develop media literacy among school children and to help them spot misinformation.
It's important to learn it in case you accidentally take something out of context. You can make sure that it actually was what you thought it was or wasn't, without it getting out of hand.
Education delivered in a non-traditional way.
Students are immersed in a world and they can be tuned in and pick up new things and build knowledge as they're exploring the world in a way that is really special.
In the words of these students, it's more fun.
You're enjoying the game while you're doing your work. You actually get to experience what a reporter is.
A world where truth is the main building block. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Coquitlam.
Well, coming up, a second chance for these cats. We'll tell you more about the UBC researchers working to rehabilitate hoarded cats. And that story after the break.
They began lining up at 7:30 this morning. They're here because 320 jobs are up for grabs at the new Rainforest Cafe.
What's it like out there to try and find a job right now?
It's very hard, very, very hard.
That won't stop Cheryl Bray from giving it her best shot. Her competition will be up to 2,000 expected applicants over the next few days.
I think that the word gets around pretty quick that, hey, somebody's hiring, let's go get it.
Getting it won't be easy. The successful candidates will have made it through 3 separate interviews, all on the same day.
See you again, pardon me. Go this way.
Thank you.
Cheryl is a grade 12 student from Surrey who has some experience in a kitchen.
Why do you want to work at the Rainforest Cafe?
I need to further my training that I have because I'll be starting college in August for BCC for the Culinary Arts program.
Each successful job hunter gets an introduction to the room.
I'd like to introduce Brian Grant, the first crew member to the Rainforest Cafe in Canada.
The majority aren't so lucky.
How'd you make out?
I bombed.
What are you going to do now?
Look for another job.
Can come back as a guest.
As for Cheryl...
Everyone's attention. This is Cheryl. She's going to be joining the Rainforest team as the Trailblazer.
And what does she plan to do with her new income?
Save money for a car and hopefully pay my parents back a bit for the tuition that they're going to be paying for my school this year.
Any advice to others that are out looking for jobs?
Just keep trying. Don't give up.
Doug Kerr, CBC News, Burnaby.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
May is Asian Heritage Month, and we're highlighting the stories of amazing Asian Canadians who are making meaningful contributions in the community. More info at cbc.ca/BC Community. And register for the CBC's Indigenous Pathways to Journalism program. This paid 9-month learning and development opportunity supports Indigenous candidates to hone their skills as storytellers. Learn more at cbc.ca/pathways.
Let's head back to the forecast now. And the peak of the heat really petered out over the long weekend. Let's join meteorologist Colette Kennedy once again for the full forecast. So Colette, what should we be looking out for this work week?
You know, it's just so hard to find a weather pattern that will provide some relief with the forest fire situation, but that doesn't then add more concerns and issues with the flooding risks. So we look at what we have here. Rainfall warning. Now, in general, it is that 50 to 75 millimeters, significant heavy rains over a couple of days, but 100 millimeters possible through parts of the Peace River area, especially southern sections there, as I was mentioning earlier in the show. And then we still have special weather statements through a wide area through the interior, eastern sections of the interior too here, where we're talking about 20 to 40 millimeters of rainfall over the next few days, and especially those eastern facing slopes where we're going to be seeing the more enhanced amounts through here. So good news, and yes, bad news in some ways as well. And then we've got to deal with the air quality as well. So what are we going to see from this rainfall? Can it provide some help there? It actually can. It can clear out that air a little bit and get some relief where it's been so terrible. And we're going to show you here in just a moment the smoke in the atmosphere, but showing you what's going on in terms of that same upper trough with the lightning strikes, that nearly 5,000 from the weekend with the record-setting heat as well, that yes, brought another 40 or so fires burning. Well, that convective situation with that upper trough develops into this area of low pressure that really hangs out for a few days and is giving the soaking rains, kind of backing up from Alberta back towards BC. By the time we get to Wednesday, we see that pulling away. Now, in terms of the air quality statement, still so widespread over multiple provinces. We got some improvement, though. Smoke in the atmosphere here, yes, pulling away from the Sunshine Coast and the lower mainland with the change in the wind direction. But look at how extensive it is and just how thick and heavy we know that it is, especially at surface level in Alberta, but into Saskatchewan as well. All right, daytime highs for tomorrow. Yes, certainly getting used to it, feeling a little bit cooler, as well as being a little bit on the wetter side. And then looking at our forecast over the next few days for Vancouver, yes, there it is. We have a couple of cooler days, some wet weather continuing, but then a ridge builds back in and we will see the temperatures heating up, drying out again. It looks like at this point anyway, it seems as though this one will be a little bit shorter lived, however.
Okay, a lot of back and forth, back and forth. Thanks so much, Colette. Well, bow ties are not usually considered biker gear, but this long weekend, they were. Vancouver bike enthusiasts hit the road in their most dapper attire yesterday for the 12th annual Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's an event that raises money for prostate cancer research. Take a look.
This is the DGR, the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's a global event in over 700 cities with over 60,000 riders participating in this single day to raise awareness for prostate cancer and men's mental health. I mean, this is the vision of Mark in Australia, the founder, and I just think it's a great niche. I mean, who doesn't like getting dressed up, putting on a bow tie, I never wear a bow tie, and dressing up and kind of showing off your bike. We'll have 330 riders dressed in their dapper gear, riding their very specific style motorcycles. It's about being out there, being seen, and just kind of showing our support to everybody who has to deal with the issues that we're raising funds for.
Well, it's being called a game changer for cats rescued from hoarding houses. Research out of UBC looks at how to help rehabilitate the animals so they won't have to be euthanized. The CBC's Marie Seidler has that story.
Want your tummy rubbed?
Meet Lumi. Lumi is 8 years old and likes playing with her toys, looking out the window, and of course, getting lots of pets.
She was really sweet. The minute I got her in here, she's sort of been very curious from day one. After a day and she started grooming and cleaning herself, I knew that she felt like she was at home.
But Lumi wasn't always so lucky. 2 years ago, she was rescued from a hoarding environment along with more than 30 other cats. But with a bit of help from a UBC researcher, Lumi found her way to a new home.
Cats from hoarding environments, they very commonly have a high prevalence of medical and behavioral issues that make treating them in shelters a particular challenge.
For the past few years, Egan has been researching how to rehabilitate cats like Lumi. She developed a protocol that combines anti-anxiety medication and behavioral techniques to make them less fearful of humans. Staff or volunteers administer the medication, then they interact with the cats every day, each time getting closer and closer.
So to get to work on cat research to improve lives of cats directly in shelters that's very applied, that can be used right away, for me that is the ultimate dream.
Shelter cats like this are generally easy to adopt. They like pets and cuddles, and they seek out human attention. Cats that come from hoarding situations aren't always so lucky.
A lot would be euthanized.
Kim Monteith has worked at the BC SPCA for more than 20 years. She says the organization takes in hundreds of cats from hoarding situations each year, and in the past, it didn't always end well.
5 or 10 years ago, good question. Well, we would bring them in and they wouldn't have good outcomes. We couldn't work with them. We didn't have the resources. We didn't know how to help them.
The SPCA has been working with Egan on her research and applying it at the shelter. The results have been noticeable, with more cats adopted out than ever.
This, and I speak for all of our staff and volunteers, has really changed. It's a game changer for us.
What was that?
A game changer for the shelter and a second chance for cats like Lumi. Marie Zeidler, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, you can always find our news program online. Our website is cbc.ca/BC. Your next local newscast is on the early edition. That's on CBC Radio 1 starting tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Thanks so much for watching this long weekend. Have a great night.